Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga Show, the Monday edition of the review for match week 21. So, as you can see, once again, as I am often these days on Monday, I'm joined by Peter over in the land of the free. It looks a lot sunnier over there than it does here in in the Bundesrepublik anyway. Obviously it's a lot earlier over there, Peter. Where are you? Which part of the US are you at the moment, and how are you keeping over there? And did you
Well,
watch the Super Bowl, by the way, as well?
that was yesterday, wasn't it? No, I totally forgot about that. As a matter of fact, Mark, thank you for the reminder. No, the our Philadelphia Eagles, fly Eagles fly. Whom no one likes us. We don't care. We're from Philly. Our Philadelphia Eagles were not playing, so I stopped following the NFL playoffs. And why should I? When the world's best footballing beat offers so much intrigue.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about this weekend. It feels
Mhm.
kind of weird not having Rory here when we had so many refereeing controversies because that's sort of his bread
Yeah.
and butter. I imagine that he would like to talk about
Yeah, like what a song that one is, or the Eagles song that no one likes us, no one likes us, no one likes us, we don't care. Yeah, I miss that one. It's one of our favorite ground hopping songs, isn't it, Peter? That
that.
one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
yeah, obviously copied very stylishly off obviously Millwall for any English fans out there watching. Yeah, but obviously the Seahawks were victorious this weekend. The Sea Dags, as I guess they call them over there in the US. But anyway, yeah, we're on Bundesliga duty anyway, so we're gonna get onto that now. Just before we start, don't forget that we are sponsored by Covert Footy Trips as well. Don't forget to check them out. Rich's brilliant company, travel company. He's got all your football, European trips covered over there in Norwich. Give him a check on Instagram. We're also sponsored by Bully News as well. Check out bullynews.com for all of your English related Bundesliga news. So yeah, Peter, without further ado, obviously, for those of you that do read the description of the show, you will know that we're mostly going to focus on the bottom half of the Bundesliga this weekend. Since we came back in 2026, we've focused a lot on like the Champions League race, which I guess has been the most interesting race so far this season. But considering a lot of teams lost in the Champions League race or didn't win this weekend, then we're going to kind of mostly focus on the bottom this weekend, because it was definitely a very interesting weekend down in that part of the table, wasn't it? You see, with 21 fixtures through now, we've got a situation where we've got Heidenheim rock bottom currently on 13 points, getting cut adrift 4 points now adrift of St Pauli, who are still 17th, but have obviously closed that gap a little bit to the teams down at the bottom with that win over Stuttgart, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Werder Bremen now dropped back into the bottom three for the first time. I guess it's the first 4 or 5 match weeks of the season. Obviously, they put that run together, but that seems a long time ago now, as they're now 11 games without a win in the Bundesliga under Daniel Tioane after they were beaten 1-0 at Freiburg. Wolfsburg are the other team down there. They're on woeful form. They obviously lost at home to Dortmund with a late goal in that one, but they now occupy 15th spot and only just a couple of goals better off than Werder Bremen. So the two Bundesliga green teams are really, really struggling at the moment. Mainz obviously climbed up with that win over Augsburg. They're now 14th and 2 points clear with 21 points. And we've got 3 teams on 22. We've got Augsburg, Gladbach, and Hamburg. Then you've still got to classify Köln as in the relegation dogfight as well, in 10th on 23 points. They're only 4 points clear of the playoff now. And then I guess you've got to go as high up as Union Berlin, really. They're on 25 points from 21. It's unlikely they get dragged into it at this point, being 6 points clear with a better goal difference, but still, they're not far enough clear for me to say they're a team that can classify themselves as being safe at this moment. So then I think, higher than that, you've got Freiburg, Frankfurt on 28 and Freiburg on 30. I think they're absolutely more in European contention than in relegation contention. So we're going to focus on some of the games that went on, some of the big kind of results and action over the weekend, Peter, down towards the bottom. So I wanted to start with probably the result of the weekend, really. It was that St Pauli upset against VFB Stuttgart. Obviously Saliakis gave them the lead in the first half with a really nice drive into the bottom corner. Then there was that, probably the first controversial moment. It was that crazy handball, really, from Furyk. I mean, that was atrocious, wasn't it, really, from him? Obviously, they checked whether it was inside the box. It was given as inside the box. And Sinani, the former Wigan man, slotted away Pauli's third penalty in 3 games, by the way. 2 of them converted by Sinani himself. And then, obviously, Jamie Leverling's consolation, nice low strike, wasn't enough to rescue anything for the VFB. And what was a very flat performance from them, Peter. But I want to focus more on Pauli. I mean, a lot of people thought they were gone a few weeks ago, really. But this win really kind of tightens things up. So, obviously, from a tactical perspective, what's changed? Because we see quite a lot of new faces in this Pauli team as well. They signed quite heavily in January. And we've seen quite a few rotations from Alexander Blessing, haven't we, in recent weeks? So what's changed and why have performances improved? Because I think they have improved in recent weeks, really.
Well, I did tip St. Pauli to win this, and most of that was based on the fact that I thought Stuttgart were going to be a little bit tired out in the Pokal. Tactically, with Stuttgart, we have the problem that our boy Bilal El Kanous has gotten into a horrible run of form at the Africa Cup of Nations and simply has not been able to get himself out of it. Insofar as Pauli is concerned, it remains the 3-4-3 system. However, we have an excellent January transfer in the form of Tomoya Ando. We actually have 3 Japanese internationals. We haven't got a chance to see them work together. Joel Shima Fujita in midfield, and also this new striker Hara, Taichi Hara, who has just arrived. But it is still the same 3-4-3 system, and I was nervous about the tip because when I saw the team sheets released, I was very, very concerned about Manolis Saliakis and Jackson Irvine in the starting 11. And both of them happened to prove me wrong. I think I'm on record as saying that I believe Saliakis was getting in the way of Pirka and Oppi, who I thought were the preferred wing back to when St. Pauli were succeeding at the beginning of the season. But Saliakis has absolutely, he has been fighting for that right wing back slot. He has proven so many of us wrong. The guy has a face that looks as if you insulted his mother perpetually. The guy has just got a chip on his shoulder. And that doesn't always translate to good results. But in his case, through an awful lot of hard work, he has gotten that starting slot back. And actually, Pirka has slid over to the left to take over for Oppi in that regard. So Blessin has made room for both of them. I did, of course, write an article on Jackson Irvine playing these 90 minutes through severe pain this weekend. It is quite a story. The Australian national team captain and sometimes Scott, who is the colorful face of this side, on an expiring contract, likely to depart at the end of the season, also had all of those controversies involving social media posts involving his wife and a St. Pauli board member harassing him online. But it was a great story. If Blessin and Irvine are to be believed in their post-match statements, Irvine was playing through terrible pain in the first half, during which he was omnipresent and just running that midfield engine, an absolute fucking talisman. But in the locker room, he was not able to join the team for the team talk. According to the story, he was receiving treatment on this foot. And Alexander Blessin came to him afterwards, just prior to the restart, and said, "Can you give me 10 minutes? Can you give me 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes?" And Irvine said, "Okay, I'll give you those." He ended up going the full 90. And of course, this makes for a great sensational story if what they're talking about actually happened and transpired, and this isn't a matter of hyperbole. You never really know in football. But Irvine and his captain's performance makes a big difference. Saliakis, of course, and his determination makes a big difference. I really do think that Ando is already in contention for one of the best transfers of the January window. It's far too early to come up with those lists, but I definitely think so. And I also like what I've seen from this Rasmussen thus far. Well, another January edition Norwegian from Union Saint-Gilloise. St. Pauli are definitely on the uptick. I actually did not tip them for relegation this year. Of course, they have a lot of ground to make up. They still are, despite this last weekend win, on 17 points. That is the automatic relegation slot. And they've only won 4 fixtures thus far this season. So, yes, they have to continue. I mean, they got off to a very, very good start this season, let's not forget, and had that terrible run of form. Actually, when you and I were doing our ground hopping in November, we were counting the amount of losses in a row and whether or not lesson would be. I actually know a Brighton fan who told me that Fabian Hürzeler is about to get sacked. Did that happen today, or?
I think he's on the brink. Yeah, he's not actually been sacked as far as I know, but he's on the brink. Yeah, so maybe Blessing might be the next replacement for him. Who knows?
Yes, see.
Yeah.
We're going to talk, of course, about a lot of teams that are involved in the relegation race this evening in our discussion. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about St. Pauli. There's a lot that's going on the uptick with them. Yeah, definitely. I agree with a lot of what you said, Peter. I think another thing that I like about Pauli is that they've a lot of the new faces we're seeing in the team are from the promotion team actually 2 years ago as well. The likes of, as you say, Pirka, Jigawa as well, which is a really hard word to say. I felt as though a lot of those guys were kind of underutilized a little bit in the early part of the season, especially when they were like on that really poor run. And as you say, Jackson Irvine has obviously had his problems this season, but it was great to see him back in the team and kind of put it in a captain's performance and looking back to his best, because let's be honest, regardless of what happened, he is a cult hero at that club. You know, I mean, he was a big part of the reason why they got into the Bundesliga in the first place. He was huge in those midfield performances. And he started really well last season, didn't he, the first half? But he didn't have a good 2025. But it seems as though 2026 he's kind of turned over another leaf. And maybe he can end his, as you say, it is likely he's going to leave the club in summer. But he's done a good, it'll be a 4-year stint, I guess, at the club, which is a pretty long period nowadays. I think, the likes of Pirka deserves credit as well. Jigawa. I think, as you say, Rasmussen has also improved too. And I think, Karel Metz as well came in and he's looked quite good as well. And I think the return to form of Vasilj as well has definitely helped, because he had a real rough run of form the back end of last year. And he was so key for them, pretty much. He was, for me, the reason why they stayed up last season, really. I think he was their standout player, their best performer. And we did see him, like that game we saw live, Peter, like he made an absolute clanger in that game. And that started a really bad run for him, didn't it? But he seems to be back on form. He had a really good game against Leipzig a few weeks ago, and he was really good in this game as well. So seems as though he's back on form. And I'm not quite going to say it's going to be enough to keep them up, because he's still look a little bit short up front. Like Martin Kars has never really been able to translate his good Zweite Liga form into Bundesliga, but he is starting to get a few more chances now, isn't he, leading that line? But I'm still not really convinced that he's a Bundesliga standard striker yet, to be honest. But definitely, and the classy dummy as well from Sinani to set up Saliakis as well. That was really nice from a former Wigan man too. It's not often we see former Wigan men in the Bundesliga these days, so that was a nice moment. But congratulations to Pauli. I thought they were well worthy of the win. As you say, Ando and so many good players and good performances in this particular match. And they've just got to look to replicate. They've got to see that performance as a benchmark now and say, we're going to go out and do that every week, pretty much. Because if they do that, they can stay up, I believe. But they're just, particularly away from home, just extremely blunt at times. And they just don't have enough going forward. So they've got to start getting wins at home and see if they can translate that into survival.
So yeah, let's move on to the next game I want to talk about this week, which was Hamburg's win over Heidenheim. And when Cam and I were doing the predictions on Thursday, this was chance saloon a little bit for Heidenheim. We felt as though, time is running out for them. They've had a lot of winnable fixtures in recent weeks, and they've not really been able to convert any of them into victories, have they? And once again in this game, they fell short against an improving HSV team who, for me, HSV this season has been really a season of ups and downs for them, hasn't it? Like they had a poor start, and then they looked really good for a few weeks. Then they went back down again just before Christmas, and now they look to be picking themselves up again. This wasn't the best performance of the season, but it was a huge win in this game. This is the English would call a 6-pointer. Obviously, really good opening goal as well, by the way. I think Königsdörfer is a man that we've criticised quite a bit on this show. As we talked before about Cars not being Bundesliga standard, for me, Königsdörfer will be another one that kind of fits on that list. Probably before this game, where he probably had his best performance for me in the Bundesliga. He got the opening goal after a really nice strike. And then, obviously, the second goal was all about Vieira, wasn't it? It was a really nice setup from the in-form Fabio Vieira, who's really starting to show that he's, the quality and the market value of over 20 million euros as well, the Arsenal loanee. He got a really good assist for Ryan Philippe for what ended up being a pretty comfortable win, despite our kind of cult hero on the show, Schimmer, getting another goal narrowly offside. That was really a pity, because it would have been nice to see him get another goal for the FCH. But Peter, HSV, I think 2-3 weeks ago, we really went in hard on them, didn't we? And we said that they're going to struggle to stay up at that time. But they've really turned it around, haven't they? The brilliant performance against Bayern last week. And then they've used that as a springboard for what was a relatively comfortable win in Heidenheim, wasn't it?
Well, I don't personally recall ever being down on the HSV. As a matter of fact, I was in our show last week. We were talking of transfer deadline day politics, and what HSV were able to accomplish in the January transfer window, I thought was most impressive, particularly in light of the fact that one of my personal heroes, Stefan Kunst, was a very, very bad boy and behaved himself very badly and got himself taken out of the mix just prior to the transfer window getting started. In any event, so shall I talk about HSV first? I suppose so. Königsdörfer, that is just his second Bundesliga goal. And the fact that they stuck with him, despite the fact that they did get Damian Downs, the former Köln German-American standout, who is now at Southampton, and a USMT international. Downs is not starting. Königsdörfer is the one who's starting the last 4 or 5 games. And the funny anecdote about him is that every time he scores, he throws himself a waffle party. It's kind of like that. I don't know if you've ever seen the Apple Plus show Severance. It's like a corporate shill that Königsdörfer gets himself a waffle party. So congratulations to Ransford Boer Königsdörfer. As the transfer deadline was nearing, I also reported on rumors that Middlesbrough had offered $4 million for him. HSV declined. So what they were able to do in the transfer window is, well, I mean, once again, they came up big. And we already saw Otele start, and I think he was largely effective there on the right wing. You also have, look, when it comes to Hamburg, we have one of the best players in world football at the moment right now in Luka Buskovic. Tottenham you have my full permission to get excited, because this kid is amazing. He arrived here in Hamburg. Hamburg, of course, welcomed him with his elder brother Mario's tricot. Luka is very, very happy to be representing Hamburg. And when it comes to estimated market value, he came here with an estimated market value of, I believe, 2.5 million. He's now considered a 40 million valued player, and that's going to skyrocket as well. But from 2.5 million to 40 million in the last 6 months. And this is fully justified. If you watch how the kid plays, I mean, he is like a mini Granit Xhaka when it comes to the challenges. And his passion for this club Whether it's what he was doing in the derby, which you can argue was a little over the top there against St Pauli. But he didn't like how the St. Pauli fans were taunting him about his brother, and he showed his passion and his willingness to defend his brother's honor in that sense. But he is truly amazing. So I mean, they really do have an excellent team here under the PE teacher, Merlin Poulsen, as you like to call him. And they just completed another excellent transfer window. I mean, the transfer window that Stefan Kunst oversaw saw them bring in Vieira, as I like to call him, Albert Sambi Lokanga, Vuskovic, and this is, I mean, they put together an excellent summer transfer window to make this squad Bundesliga ready. Nikolai Remberg and Nicolas Capaldo. Capaldo has found extra life as a center back. Gokolishvili, the Georgian, has been great. They had their share of flops. I mean, I suppose you could probably call Damian Downs a flop at this point.
Yeah, so far, anyway.
Yusuf Paulsen as the captain. I mean, he's been perpetually injured. Perhaps he does contribute something in the locker room, but on the pitch, he's not contributing much. Our favorite player, or one of my favorite players ever, Jordan Torunariga, a former Hertha BSC man and the star of that wonderful documentary Schwarzer Adler, has been a total bust. But what they were able to do in that summer transfer window is simply amazing. And they did an excellent job in the winter transfer window as well. We still haven't seen Grönbeck yet, this Dane who they picked up on a loan. We still haven't seen Otto Stange, who they recalled early from Elversberg, but he's in good form in the Zweite Bundesliga, and perhaps he'll get a start at striker as well. They, as I was discussing last Tuesday, they've rebuilt their entire attack and addressed these problem areas, and they've done it all with a guy in Klaus Costa, who is just a sporting director, and Dr. Eric Hua, who was the CFO, who got called in to help him once they got dismissed. I also like what they did, departure-wise in the transfer window. I mean, they got Farai loaned out, they got Meffert and Hefty sold. I mean, they cut the roster down and the payroll down to a manageable level. I really do like the HSV. I didn't tip them for relegation, and I don't think that they're going to really factor into the relegation race at this juncture. That brings us to Heidenheim, of course. And I remain quite angry that Stefan Schimmer is not starting and scoring more goals, so we can keep referencing Gundelfingen. I like to reference Gundelfingen. We're angry that Sir Lord Conte and Christian Conte, I mentioned this before, but this is one of my go-to humor lines, that you have Sir Lord Calvin Conte, and then Christian Joe Conte, Christian Joe
from the deep South Alabama.
Yeah, we've got this regal, Englishman who should be in the House of Lords, and then we've got some guy who's like, "Son, I remember that windmill done cut your head clean off, but the head grew back." So. And to add, more insult to injury when it comes to Heidenheim, I personally was excited about Aaron Dinkshi going back to Heidenheim on loan from Freiburg, where he thrived, and I thought maybe he would recapture some form. It's early yet, but he had a terrible match against Hamburg. I was actually Nihus was formerly a Kaiserslautern player, so after what we saw from him against Dortmund last week, I thought maybe he could parlay that form a little bit. Hennes Behrens not doing much, unfortunately. And yeah, this team is. I covered Frank Schmidt's presser, and he just basically laid it out there. Okay, and the statistics speak for itself. I mean, if you look at the table, Heidenheim are in dead last place. They are on 13 points. They've only won 3 matches this season. Kind of heartbreaking for them after they probably should have won that game against Dortmund last weekend. And then they turn in, they just lay a complete egg at home against HSV. HSV, by the way, hadn't even won an away game all season. And Schmidt was quick to reference that.
Yeah, that's true.
But in Schmidt's own words, of course, I led my article. The headline goes with the vulgar words, but in the actual content of the article, he mentions the fact that they're not 6 points from safety on Werder Bremen in 16th points. They're 7 points from safety because they have a minus 28 goal differential. They've conceded 47 goals this season. That is worse than even Frankfurt, though only by one. They've scored 19 goals this season. St Pauli have scored 20. They're the second worst. But Schmidt was just basically laying it out for everybody and saying, okay, here's the points total. Here's our goal differential. Here's what we need. Here's what we're not getting. And he basically conceded the fact that that his squad just doesn't have top quality finishers, and they didn't get one in the January transfer window. Kind of hard to recruit somebody to this Heidenheim project, but they simply don't have it beyond Stefan Schimmer, who came out of nowhere to score 5 goals. Guys like a guy like Marvin Piering is never going to be in consistent form. 2 KSC flops in Budu Sivsevadze and Mikhail Kaufmann are not getting anywhere. You hope that Dinkshi can maybe recapture some of his form, or maybe Nihus can parlay a little bit, as I was talking about earlier. But where the goals are going to come from, and who's going to get into sort of a form, some hot form here, I can't personally think of anybody. So it's not as if the season is over and the relegation race is over by any stretch of the imagination. But that points total, that goal differential, and the roster that we're looking at, I am very, very hard pressed to see them getting out of last place, and I'm sure that you agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people on this show in the preseason predictions, we tipped them to finish dead last, and that's exactly where they are for many of the reasons that they've already served up. As you say, they've not got enough goals in the team. We all had higher hopes for Ibrahimovic, that he could but he's massively underperforming. I read that he's one of the players that's most underperforming his XG. He should be on 5 goals for the season. He's on a flat 0. According to XG, he should have 5 goals. So it's just not good enough, ultimately. He was probably their marquee signing, obviously getting him on loan. But he's just not done it. I think Dingchi was a really good signing on paper, like you said. But obviously 2 games, he's not really... Okay, he was all right last week, wasn't he? But this game is the kind of game you want him to take this... he's probably one of the best players on that pitch, ultimately, the most experienced players. And he had a couple of chances with that header, which was well saved by Fernandes, but ultimately couldn't quite get enough of the game. I think he's a quality sign, and he is the kind of guy they needed to bring in, but he's got to start playing quickly because he's not got time to play himself into form because there's only, 13 games left now. And they're probably going to have to win 6-7 games potentially out of those 13 matches, unless they get lucky like last season and 2 teams just never get it going, basically. But I would say they're going to have to win 6-7 games if they want to stay up, really. At least 6 and a couple of draws. That would take them up to round about the 33, 34 point mark. That might be good enough for a playoff spot, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, I agree that HSV has become a very good squad over the season. I think Merlin Poulsen deserves a lot of credit for that. I think, as you say, a lot of players have increased their market worth very impressively. I mean, you can't complain. I think another one is Lakonga, who's also increased his market worth. I believe he came in with next to nothing, like maybe 1 million, and now he's also up to like 4 or 5 million market worth too. So there's so many players in there that have done well in this team, and it's not been perfect. There have been bad results along the way. Obviously, as you say, this was their first away win of the season, which is something they need to improve on over the closing weeks. But there just looks like there's too much quality in this side to go down. I think they're going to stay up quite comfortably in the end. So yeah, let's move on to another game, which was 2 relegation candidates and remain 2 relegation candidates ultimately, and that's Mainz 05 against the FCA Augustus Vindelicum Augsburg. So yeah, this was an interesting game. I mean, obviously it was decided by 2 penalties from Nadim Amiri. He's now up to 9 league goals for the season. I guess more than half of them have been penalties, but it's still a very impressive number from the highly impressive Amiri, who continues to look very, very good in that Mainz side. Didn't really tell the full story of the game, though, because I actually felt the man of the match was Bats, the goalkeeper of Mainz. I felt as though he made 3 or 4 really good saves. Maybe I'm a little bit biased as an FCA fan and everything, but I thought Claude Maurice was excellent for Augsburg in the game. I think he had that swerving effort, which was really well saved by Bats. I think they had a few chances throughout the game, the FCA. I think Kermur had some really good play. Obviously, Augsburg once again showing ambition to keep him at the club, rejecting 12 million euros for Kermur, which I was thinking at the time, just sell him for that kind of money, to be honest. But, you know, we see Augsburg are a team that show ambition. Nobody can deny that. And once again, they did. And Kermur had a better performance in this match. He's never been a player that I've been 100% sold on. I feel as though he's always been a little bit overrated, to be honest with you. Not a bad player by any means, but 12 million euros seems like a very high offer for him. But anyway, he almost equalized as well. Well saved by Bats. But yeah, obviously, I think the 2 penalties were probably correct. It was clumsy foul. The first one by Rex Bahai, the second one by Kader, I believe it was. Peter... My takeaway from this game was that Mainz are not even going to filter into the relegation zone. I think they're just way too good, and they're going to go way up towards mid-table by the end of the season. Just too many good players in that side for me, and it's just not a relegation team. And since Urs Fischer came in, I felt as though they've just looked very, very good. You know, I think Silas has looked really good on return to the Bundesliga. He deserves credit. He could have had a goal or 2 in this game as well. I was happy to see Shereldo Becker come in, and he had a chance as well in the second half, which was, you know, the quality that they're bringing in. A lot of these players have had really good Bundesliga careers previously. As you say, Amiri is just a standout, really. I think Sano looks quality. Posh. It was good to see them keep a clean sheet as well, a rare clean sheet this season. I think a lot of that was due to the kind of the experienced hand of Stefan Posch as well, who, you know, solidified that back line. I think, as I said, Bats has really grown into the role as being a standing goalkeeper. They're just looking a really good side at the minute. This wasn't the strongest performance we've seen under Fischer, but it was enough to win the game. And I also think Augsburg, overall, okay, they lost this game, but I don't think they look really like relegation candidates right now. There's definitely at least 4 or 5 weaker teams in my eyes than them at the moment. You might disagree with me, Peter, but I look at that squad, and again, similar to Mainz, it looks like they got too much quality, really, to go down. I think Maurice is really back on form. I think he had a good game. I like Kermur as a kind of support. I think the system that they played for this game, the 3-4-2-1, looked really good with Kermur and Maurice behind Grigoric. Grigoric didn't have his best game in this match at all, but, you know, he is a very kind of streaky kind of player, Grigoric. So that is just what you're going to get from him, really. But overall, Masengo is a good player as well. Fellhauer is, for me, disappointed a little bit overall. I expected a bit more from him after signing from Elversberg, another Elversberg guy. But overall, Peter, I feel as though Mainz won the day, but both of these sides should be good enough to avoid relegation. What do you think?
Well, we actually talked about both these sides in our little transfer talk pod last Tuesday. And, of course, we praised both of them for what they were able to do. The difference being, of course, that Augsburg, they did not necessarily have a very balanced transfer window. They brought in a lot of guys where I'm just like, Ribeiro, why? That doesn't make any sense. It's a short-term loan. I don't know what he's supposed to contribute. Mainz, on the other hand, were absolutely targeted, and in bringing Stefan Posch back to the Bundesliga, I mean that's just something that makes most of us Bundesliga enthusiasts grin from ear to ear. As does, I mean, Silas is just. I mean, we want him to succeed so badly. The footballing artist known formerly as Silas Wamangituka. Now that's Katumpa Mvumpa, but we call him Silas because that's what he wants to be called, and he's had a hell of a time particularly with a German legal system that is, God damn it. I mean, it's just Paragraphenreite. It does get on your nerves. It is grating at times, I have to say. As those of us who live, or at least live partially in the Bundesrepublik, know, good Lord, how many traffic tickets I enjoy. Time we go ground hopping. Thank you for blitzing me when I'm going 30 kilometers per hour through a 20-kilometer zone. I couldn't feel it. Jesus Christ.
It's just part of the Bundesrepublik experience.
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, the thing of it is, and we've been saying this, we've been doing this pod going on 3 years now. What is the magic number, Mark? What is the magic number to avoid relegation, my good man?
You coined it, 35 points.
35 points. You absolutely need 35 points in order to avoid relegation in the Bundesliga. And at the moment, FC Augsburg and FSV Mainz 05 have 22 and 21 respectively. They're going to have to do better than that. You've got to do better than that. And if you want to avoid relegation. So, what can we say about this? They're looking strong. Both sides are looking strong, but are they strong enough to carry on over the remainder of these 13 matches? I imagine that we're going to talk about Werder Bremen fairly soon. And as I was writing a little piece on Tune, how did you pronounce his name again there, Mark?
I thought that sounded a bit more German. Tune sounds a bit more like, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's a tough one. It's one of those kind of, I guess it's a French name, but the Germans like to Germanify names a little bit, I noticed. So well, maybe
we saw his Düsseldorf live at the Merkur Spiel Arena. We did.
We did, yeah, yes. We did. But he was long serving at Düsseldorf. Yeah, I guess he was like 4 years roundabout at Düsseldorf.
Yeah. He have also at HSV for a couple of years. But anyways, so whenever I'm doing a piece on Werder, or whenever I'm thinking about relegation in general, I have to bring up Florian Kohfeldt again, who is doing a nice job with Darmstadt, beat the hell out of Slouten over the weekend, maybe gets them promoted to the top flight. But his tenure in charge of Werder Bremen, particularly the last 2 years, furnished some of the ugliest football I've ever seen in my life. And it was a dark time. It was a COVID time. It was me writing an American in the Bundesliga Deep Scout column and having to watch Josh Sargent play in Kofeldt's Werder Bremen every week. But the year that they were relegated, that is at the end of the 2020-21 campaign, they had 30 points. I think it was on match day 20. They achieved their last victory of the season over Arminia Bielefeld, who has now become the team that has dumped them out of the Pokal the last 2 years. And they had you? Yes. Mark, you okay?
Yeah. There was a bit of a malfunction on my line there. Sorry about that.
Thought for a second there you were going to get carted off to the in the Krankenwagen.
Right? I wasn't far off, to be honest.
All right, good. Yeah. So they had 30 points with 14 match days remaining. All they had to do was get 5 more points, and they would have been safe. But they got 1 more point over the course of those last 14 days. So a collapse of any sort is possible here. We've seen that Gregoric can be sort of hit or miss. As much as I want to see Silas achieve, there's plenty of instances in which I think that he does look no longer will be able to be anywhere close to the same player that so enthralled us those 4 seasons ago. Philip Tietz is still not doing much of anything, but yeah. It's a lot can happen here. All we need are, some ill-timed injuries, a really bad run of form here, some stale tactics. A lot can still happen here. Daniel Batz, I mean, he's a wonderful story. 35-year-old. Well, no, he wasn't a 35-year-old Bundesliga rookie. He made a couple of appearances, I think, a couple of years ago. But yeah, now a regular number 1 keeper for the first time in his life at the age of 35. So we don't know what's what can happen here, and they still need to pick up a lot of points. So it's going to get to that point. I imagine in the coming weeks when we talk about the relegation race, we're going to be going down the schedule and tipping. And yes, left-footed, we haven't forgotten about you either. We'll give you some Pokal tips here at the end of the pod. But I mean, you're gonna have to start studying those fixture lists and playing the all of the permutation games and things like that, and driving yourself nuts, because there are a lot of teams that still factor into this relegation race. I myself, have ruled out Hamburger SV. I'll probably rule out Köln as well. I think the two promoted sides will both stay in the Bundesliga this year. But the rest of them, they all still count as candidates from 12th place down to 18th place. That's Gladbach, Augsburg, Mainz, Wolfsburg, Werder, Pauli, and Heidenheim, with only Heidenheim looking to be a guaranteed relegation candidate.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. As I say, Bremen, we talked about for most of last week's show, so I don't want to go on too much about them. But Tioune obviously made his debut. He was appointed, I think, very quickly, wasn't he? We talked in depth last Tuesday about what was going to happen with Werder, but he was appointed the day after, I believe, on the Wednesday, and he was also there on the touchline for this game in Freiburg. But unfortunately for Bremen, it was yet another extremely uninspiring display against a Freiburg side who played long periods with 10 men after Manzambi was sent off after 52 minutes. I mean, for me, they're just completely blunt up top. I think we always said that Jens, all the world's a stage, was going to stop scoring eventually. And unfortunately, it's happened for them at the wrong time when just about the entire team has stopped scoring for Bremen at the minute. It's extremely worrying times. If you look at that front line that they went with in this particular match, I mean, they're going with Kiki Top, for God's sake. You know that things are desperate when he's getting starts at Bundesliga level, really. And Jinma has basically been AWOL the entire season, as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, was linked away at one point in January, too. And to be honest, I'm not sure it would have been too much of a bad thing. I think Schmid continues to provide quality, but there's just not enough quality players up top in that team. And it doesn't look like a terrible lineup on paper. You've got like Schmid, you got Stage, you got Sugawara, who continues to look decent. But aside, you got Koulibaly, who's another highly rated youngster. But it's just not working, Peter, is it? And obviously, Tioune came in this game. He didn't change too much. I actually liked his tactics that he went with, playing Stage and Schmid in a really advanced role. It was a very attacking lineup, but they just don't seem to get goals. And it's now 11 games without a win for the SVV. That's a lot of games at this stage of the season. As you say, it does, in my opinion, it holds kind of a repeat of the Kohlfeld year when they just fell apart that year. They were looking relatively comfortable mid-table. Obviously, that particular season, the collapse happened much later. It started around about this period on like 20, 21 games, and they didn't win again after that. But it's a similar winless run, like that 14-match winless run. They could easily repeat that this season. And Peter, I'm just not feeling optimistic about Werder at all. I know that things have turned very toxic amongst the fan base. The fan base are absolutely furious with what the team's serving up. They get regularly booed off at the end of games. And Tioune, I mean, he's a good manager, but he's never really quite managed to get to the level and get really high levels of success. Like, he was a good Dusseldorf coach, but he was well backed at Dusseldorf, and he never quite got them back into the Bundesliga, did he? And the same with HSV. Obviously, he was tasked with getting them back up a couple of years before, and he never quite got that promotion on his CV. But obviously, he has eventually found his way back in the Bundesliga. But, I mean, are you optimistic for the SVV, Peter, or are you kind of just as pessimistic as I am at the minute?
I'm deeply concerned. We talk about, how I always love to talk about the axes, the tactical axes. And that top attacking axes of KK Top and Justin and Jinma, I mean, you could just see how fragile Jinma's confidence was as that game wore on. I mean, he was doing nothing but taking distance efforts. The kid's got pace, and when he's confident, he can actually, turn some nice tricks and score some nice goals. But his confidence looks to be shot to bits. Understandably, the fan base continues to circulate this petition to fire Clement Fritz. And this squad is horribly balanced, terribly balanced. I mean, you have nothing but buttressing support attackers. On the second axis, do you know how many players can feature there? I'll name them all for you. Jovan Milosevic, Samuel Mbangula, Marco Grul, Jens Stage, Romano Schmid, Cameron Saltas, Leonardo Bittencourt once he gets healthy again, Patrice Kovic, the youngster. That's 8 players that can play on the second attacking axis, and you have no finishers. Nobody. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I would have, for God's sakes, why didn't they at least try to get Dinkshi? Dinkshi couldn't play as a center forward, and he's a Bremen native. They could have tried to get him back. Or, I hate to say it, but recall David Konaki from Hertha earlier. Why not? It's just, you look at the way that this club is being managed, and whenever you think to yourself, I could do a better job than this, there's something seriously wrong. Because, I mean, as broadly knowledgeable about football in the Bundesliga as I may be, I should not be able to be figuring this stuff out better than actual professional administrators who are getting paid. So, I mean, it's a disaster. And if you look at the fixture list, okay, they had that horrible start to the season, in which they had Bielefeld in the opening round of the Pokal. And then they had a brutal fixture list to start the season. And it's not over with yet, because as you know, the Rückrunde and the Hinrunde, they play the teams in the exact same order. So they have to play Bayern next week before things get a little bit easier. And so it's after Bayern, it's Pauli, Heidenheim, Union Berlin, Mainz, and Wolfsburg. So you have 5 winnable fixtures right there. And actually, under Stefan, they were able to get 11 points from those fixtures in the Hinrunde. But even if they equal that total and they get 11 points this time, that adds up to 30 points, which is not the 35 that you need. And then after that, it gets hard again. You got to play Leipzig, Köln, HSV, Stuttgart, Augsburg, Hoffenheim, and Dortmund. So it's quite possible that I almost see the exact same thing happening as I sort of prognosticate into the future. I look at this and I say, okay, they'll pick up 11, 12 points from this easy stretch of fixtures, but then they're going to be stuck there. They're going to be stuck on 30 points. They're going to be stuck on 31 points, and they're not going to be able to get out. And what can Tune really do with this team? He doesn't have any solutions, even as as injuries clear up. Okay, so he'll get Maximilian Weber back. That's a defender. He'll get Bittencourt back. That's a midfielder. He'll get Mitchell Weiser back maybe in late March, and it's going to take forever for him to be, to get back into rhythm and get into form. It's a winger. You don't have a striker. And I told you not to take Victor Boniface to McDonald's, and you didn't listen to me.
We had a good time with our doppelpack. It's a pity you can't get a doppelpack on the pitch, isn't it? But yeah, I totally concur. Yeah, the final club that I just want to mention over a little bit before we do a few predictions as well, the back end, is obviously Wolfsburg. If we're talking about a relegation show, we have to talk about them. Obviously showed a bit of fight in the 2-1 defeat against Dortmund, who once again struck late to win the game. Obviously, they got level via Kuliarakis in that game, the centre half. But they're another one that, for me, the issue with them is just the coaching situation. I think Daniel Bauer has massively overstayed his welcome, basically, in my eyes. It's like, obviously, he had that kick, which, again, we mentioned last week. But to say that's gone stale is an understatement as well. And they're also starting to clock up like quite a few games without a win now. You look at the squad, even the likes of Kevin Paredes is starting to get back on the pitch, which it's time to start worrying if he's playing every week again. But as you say, Favreau was back on the pitch after his scandal in Slovakia as well for this game. It's just not looking good because they should be doing better with this squad. We all know that. Obviously, Amour is still playing well. That's the problem. I still feel as though he's doing okay, but I guess motivation could be a factor for him. He had options to move in the summer. That didn't quite materialize, and now he's stuck in a relegation dogfight in the Bundesliga. it's not really what you want, is it? Especially after a bad AFCON with Algeria, where they obviously underperformed as well a little bit. So not looking good for him. You've seen a few, the likes of Killian Fisher is the only one that ever seems to be able to keep his position at that club, but he's like the worst player, effectively. So it just seems as though, again, mismanagement, which is, I mean, how many years, Peter, we've been talking about this with Wolfsburg now? We're talking at least 3 or 4 years. I think since we've been doing the show together, we've been talking about Wolfsburg mismanagement, and it's just, you do get the feeling that one year that it's going to slip through the net and they are going to go down, because I think they've been in the playoff a couple of times in the last 10 years, haven't they? Like, they were definitely in it one year, possibly twice even over the years. So do you think we could be talking about them maybe making a shot relegation? Or
yeah, it's possible that they could slip into the playoff place. That is possible. Wolfsburg was one of the squads or one of the clubs that I praised for what they were able to accomplish in the transfer window, particularly as the deadline neared. And they did get good players. They got Borussia, who did a good job as the left back. In this one, they also got that new central defender, Ajiti, who probably eventually be capable of taking the place of Vavro. But yeah, I haven't written a tactical review for Wolfsburg yet. I'm going to. I plan on doing so tomorrow, because I thought that the execution was extremely poor in what should have been a simple 4-2-3-1. Particularly from this January acquisition, Shio guy. I mean, he just had no idea how to. All he had to do was be a stable 10, and he didn't do it. And of course, they were thrown off a little bit by an injury to Fisher, and Kevin Paredes. For God's, have some mercy, Mark. The kid has been hurt for 2 years, for crying out loud. There's a lot of things going on with Wolfsburg. Amora, by the way, did not play a good match, and he got suspended again. Very, very. I don't know. Last spring, he tried to gouge one of his teammates' eyes out. I don't know what happened this time. They're keeping it under wraps, but there's a lot of implosion potential when it comes to Wolfsburg. Also in club management, Daniel Bauer and Pierman Schwegler, not necessarily the problem. It's Peter Christiansen, the managing director, who I don't know if he necessarily survives the season. I think both him and Fritz are really on the chopping block. I would not be surprised to see both Wolfsburg and Bremen dismiss their chief personnel manager before the season is out. A problem with Wolfsburg is that they did get some good transfers. A lot can still come together. Bauer runs a simple 4-2-3-1 system. Eventually, they're going to get the hang of it. Germans would be overjoyed to watch this club get relegated. I mean, that would be so. Germans would absolutely love it. They would love the fact that a non-50+1 club got relegated. We actually haven't. Because that never happens. And Wolfsburg have come close to obliging us on many different occasions, including they were in the relegation playoff one year against Kaiserslautern. And so it's, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think they are relegation candidates. There's a lot of worrying stuff there. There's a lot that can still go wrong, both on the pitch and in the front office. I don't know, somehow they got the pieces in place, and they'll find a way. By the way, they're seriously over leveraged. By the way, so if you look at their transfer balance, they've gone about 40 million or so into the red, and for a team that's sponsored by Volkswagen, who is having all these financial difficulties, that's actually serious. So if they did get relegated, that would be huge. I mean, the club would have a huge problem recovering, because the company that sponsors it doesn't have the money to pump into it anymore. Obviously, they don't get a lot from the gate receipts in Wolfsburg.
Yeah,
and
that is true.
Moreover, who the hell is going to be going to Wolfsburg games when you keep laying off Volkswagen staff? I mean, you're fired. You want to come out and support our football team? No.
Say they went into the Zweite you wonder if they'd even made 10,000 a game, because I remember they had a Pokal fixture this season against Kiel, and they struggled to break 10,000 for it.
That's normal.
Got a lot of you would imagine that'd be regular if they went out down into the second league.
It was like that when they were in the Europa League and then the Champions League. I mean, have you actually? You've never been to Wolfsburg? I mean,
no, it's one of the grounds I've never been to before.
Yeah, I mean, I go. I've been. I'm always going because I want to go see the women's team. I want to go see the women's national team or something like that. I'll show you Wolfsburg someday. I know it's not big on the ground hopping list. Nobody's requesting that we go to Wolfsburg, but all you have to do is see the Wolfsburger Bahnhof, and you'll be like, "What? This is."
I've heard bad stories about that city. To be
honest. You see, the Wolfsburger Bahnhof is about the size of a bus stop. I mean, you go in there and you're like, "Wait a minute, this is a town? No, it's ridiculous."
I do remember where I've seen them away a lot of times. I mean, we saw them at Freiburg. I've seen them at Hertha. I've seen them away at Augsburg twice. And they always have like a little band of followers, like just 200 or 300 of them, and I always think respect to those guys that actually travel, because it's, I remember seeing one guy last time I was at Augsburg, and he was traveling back alone by train, and he stopped off in Nuremberg. I thought he is one, hardcore fan to come all that way, because it's a hell of a trek down to Augsburg for Wolfsburg fans. But yeah, as you say, there aren't many of them, but they're definitely not going to be happy as things stand at the minute. So yeah, let's just finish off, because obviously we've spent quite a lot of time. We've gone into quite a lot of detail there about the relegation zone, which we hope you're happy with. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Champions League and the title race in recent weeks, but considering kind of, Bayern and Dortmund both won, so we didn't want to go into too much detail on that this weekend. So yeah, we got a few requests as well from Left Footed to go on about the Pokal matches. So obviously we got the second two semi-finals, haven't we? So the first one, Peter, tomorrow evening, obviously Hertha versus Freiburg. So go on, I'll let you start with a tip on that. What are you going for?
I'm actually going to go for a Hertha upset on this one. I think that Freiburg were, they're a little bit shaken after that tough match with Werder. Julian Schuster was a little bit shaken too. I don't know if you saw his epic press conference rant. But here we're going to be in the Olympiastadion with a bunch of Hertha fans. I imagine that I might be proved wrong when Derry Sherhunt, the former Hertha player, scores a double puck. But I still need to see more from Freiburg. I mean, they can be a very defensively good team. But and I'm glad I saw that from Jan Nicholas Besta. Where the hell has that been the last?
Yeah, true. You're right.
And Suzuki. It was a shame that goal was disallowed, and Monzambi. I mean, they're clearly the better team, but I'll tip a Hertha upset here, 2-1 at the Olympiastadion.
Yeah, I think it does have the makeup of a shot, because obviously we've seen teams from below the Bundesliga do so well. Obviously, two of the last finalists have been non-Bundesliga teams, which is incredible, really. Obviously, your boys, Kaiserslautern, 2 years ago. And then obviously last year we even had a Dritte Liga side, didn't we, in Bielefeld, who famously beat many Bundesliga teams along the way, including obviously defending champions Leverkusen last season in the semis. So, I think we've had a lot of joy from non-Bundesliga teams, and this does have the makings of an upset, I think. Obviously it's going to be a full house, I think, at the Olympiastadion. I think the atmosphere for the Kaiserslautern, the rout over Kaiserslautern in the last round was amazing. They completely filled it out. I think there were like 75,000 on for that semi, and they obviously went home happy. Peter didn't go home so happy, but anyway, but I'm going to actually go against the grain with this one. It's a long trip up for the Freiburg fans, but I'm sure a lot of them will make the trip, as pretty much all away teams do to the Olympiastadion. We've seen Freiburg have a good record in this competition in recent years, obviously also making the final 3 years ago, which they were very unfortunate to lose against Leipzig. And then I think the year after that, they lost a semi also against Leipzig. So they've had a good track record in recent years in this competition. So I'm going to go for them to get a 2-1 win. I think, it's a big game for them because they're back in the semis, and who knows, with a home quarter, a semi-final, you never know. They could get back to the Olympiastadion for the final. So I'm going to back the Bundesliga team to stop the non-Bundesliga teams from taking part in the semi-finals this year. Then we got the game on Wednesday, which obviously has been quite a bit of controversy over this after the I don't know if you've seen it, Peter, but there's going to be a big transport strike in Munich on the Wednesday. So they actually talked today about even postponing this game potentially, but it is going to go ahead. It's been confirmed it's going to go ahead. Probably, I'm not sure they'll be able to sell it out because I don't know if you've ever been to the Allianz, but it's if you're not there by car, coming from the centre of Munich, you need the public transport because it is too far to walk. And the typical way that Bayern fans get there is they meet at the Maximilianplatz and whatever, the main kind of squares, and they all go together on the U-Bahn, and that's the typical structure there. But they're not going to be able to do that this week. So it will be interesting to see if all the fans are even able to get there for this quarterfinal. But as for the game, it doesn't bode well for Leipzig, considering the fact the last time they went there, they lost 6-0 and also lost 5-1 in the second fixture against them. But we have seen over the years that Leipzig do know how to play against Bayern. We've seen that Leipzig teams have generally had a good record against Bayern, but I'm not so sure. Ole Werner is things. Obviously, they got a good win against Köln. I thought they played pretty well against Köln, but I don't feel as though in general they're on great form. And I think Bayern are really targeting the Pokal this year after a long drought without winning it. The last time was obviously 2020 when they last won it. It's been, a 6-year drought is really a long drought in terms of Bayern standards. So I think they really want the Pokal, and they're going to go out strong for this one, and they're going to get, for me, a 3-1. I don't think it'll be quite as heavy as some of the other wins we've seen in recent years, but it's going to be a 3-1 Bayern win. Peter?
Yeah, I'll concur with that. You simply don't bet against Bayern. I know that everybody's a little bit disappointed that the so-called Topspiel against Hoffenheim ended up being decided by a controversial refereeing. Yeah. I'm glad that we didn't talk about the title race because I still don't think we have one. And when it comes to this, Leipzig have been blown out in both of their Bayern matches beforehand this time, and I think they're going to get blown out again.
Yeah, 3-1. Yeah, so there you go. That's your completed semi-final lineup. So yeah, guys, we hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, we didn't talk much about the kind of the title race or the Champions League race this week, but we wanted to give you guys a show because we did have a couple of comments coming in that we've not covered the mid-table towards the bottom end so much since 2026. So we hope you enjoyed our comprehensive relegation coverage. More of that will be coming your way, obviously, as the season heats up, and more title race talk as well, and European race as well, and obviously Pokal too. So yeah, if you've enjoyed what you've seen tonight, then don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Don't forget as well, we're also a podcast as well, so check out Spotify and Apple. And we're also on social media as well, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, guys. Thanks to Left Footed for leaving some comments. We'll see you again on Thursday for the predictions ahead of match week 22. So thanks a lot, guys, and see you then. Ciao, ciao.